Hey guys, welcome back to another lesson. Today I'd like to talk to you about dominant ninth chords. These chords have a unique dreamy quality to them, which tends to be, in some situations, pretty useful and interesting. Let me start by demonstrating what it is I mean. Here's a D dominant ninth chord, and you can just by arpeggiating these notes get a feel for this dreamy quality. Now, this kind of dreamy sound is very characteristic of classical compositions by composers like Debussy. What I'd like to do today is give you an idea of how to build and use these chords in a more contemporary context. So we're going to start with an example that just uses a simple chord progression, and in the end, I'm going to put or record or play for you kind of a more synth-oriented composition with just some dreamy arpeggiations. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start with what's called the 6-2-5-1 progression. Basically, in the key of C major, you play the sixth or a chord built on the 6th degree, leading to a chord built on the 2nd degree, which is a D, to a chord built on the 5th degree, and then resolve to the 1, which is a chord built on the 1st degree. Now, if you're within the scale, what you'll do is you'll play, starting from a C major, a 6, an A minor, a 2, which would be a D minor, a 5, which would be a G major, leading to a C major, to the 1. What we're going to do is we're going to swap all of the chords, except for the target final chord, with dominant ninth chords. Now, to build these chords, what you do is you construct the corresponding major scale. So let's take a C major, for example. And you assign numbers to the consecutive notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. And you play the 1st, 3rd, 5th, flat and 7th, and 9th degrees. And you get a C dominant ninth chord. Now, you don't have to play all of the notes. The most important ones are the 3rd, flat and 7th and 9th, and you can just play those actually. You of course have the freedom to move the notes around, so I can maybe play something that, take this D and move it down here. Or maybe I could do something a little bit fancier. Let's say, take the C and E and move them down here. Now, it doesn't necessarily sound good, but at least it's permissible from a musical theoretical perspective. And of course, you can double notes as well. So I can take this D and also double it down here. So I have this freedom in the way I voice the chords. Now, you can do or construct these dominant ninth chords for any note, or you can just take this basic shape and transpose it. So from a C dominant ninth to a D flat dominant ninth to a D dominant ninth, and so on and so on. So this would be our 1, the C major, A dominant ninth, D dominant ninth, and G dominant ninth. And if I play these chords, this will be the 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. It has this kind of happy 20s jazz feel to it. Now, we're going to make a few changes. This would be, let's keep the A dominant ninth the same. Let's play this for the D dominant ninth. You'll notice that we're omitting the bass, the D itself, which is fine. As you remember, we really only need to play the 3rd, 7th, and 9th degrees, which, I double the 7th here, and I also add the 5th. So this would be my D dominant ninth, and G dominant ninth, and C. So now I'll make another change, which is I'm going to take the D dominant ninth and sus it. So instead of the third degree, I'm going to play the fourth. And also double this fourth up here. So this would be a G dominant ninth or a G9 sus4 chord. So now I have sounds pretty nice and happy. Not bad. Now one thing I can do is I can use what's known as a backdoor dominant, which means that instead of the G dominant ninth or the G9 sus4, I can play the dominant ninth degree built on the flattened 7th degree of the C major scale, which basically means that instead of playing a G dominant ninth, I can play a B flat dominant ninth. So I can play this. Sounds like a Beatles song, which is not a bad thing to know how to do. Now, anytime you see a dominant chord, you can precede it by a major or minor chord, which is a perfect fourth below it. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I mean that, let's say I'm playing the C, A dominant ninth, D dominant ninth, and now I'm playing an F minor to a B flat dominant 9, back to a C major. Now this F minor is a perfect fourth, it's a minor chord which is a perfect fourth below the B flat dominant 9th. And you know what, let's turn this into a ballad. Again, this has a pretty interesting sound to it. One final thing you can do is you can take any dominant 9th chord and you can sus it like I did for the G. So you can play, let's say, a C major, and instead of an A dominant 9th, you can play an A 9 sus4. You can follow this by, let's say, a D9 sus4 to a G9 sus4. Now you can do this if you want to add some ambiguity to your sound. It's up to you really. Or you can use the 9 sus4 with the backdoor dominant. So say play a C major, a D9 sus4, and I can follow it with a B flat 9 sus4, back to a C major chord. So you have all of these options, and you can use them to play around and incorporate the sound into your own playing. Now I'm going to conclude with a short, well, let's call it a piece, which is really just an arpeggiating synth sound with a pad beneath it. And have a listen to how these dominant ninth chords can be used to create a dreamy kind of soundscape in a completely different context, like a synthy kind of soundscape. So that's it. I hope you enjoy your listen and that you've learned something interesting, and I'll see you next time.